The palace corridor stretched silent in the moonlight. William's footsteps echoed against marble floors as he made his way toward his daughter's wing. It was past midnight. Should have been asleep. But something gnawed at him, a father's instinct that wouldn't let him rest. For weeks now, Charlotte had been different. Quiet, withdrawn. The bright spark that once lit up every room had dimmed to barely a flicker. At dinner, she barely touched her food. During family gatherings, she sat apart, staring at nothing. When he asked what was wrong, she smiled that practiced smile and said she was fine. But William knew his daughter, and he knew she wasn't fine. Tonight he'd decided to check on her himself. It's no announcement, no formality, just a father wanting to see his child. As he rounded the corner, he saw him. Palace guards stood rigid outside Charlotte's door. Standard protocol, there was always security in this wing. But something about this guard's posture seemed wrong, too tense, too alert for a routine midnight shift. William slowed his pace. The guard noticed him immediately. His hand moved toward his radio, then stopped. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something else. Fear, guilt, Your Majesty. The guard straightened, his voice tight. William studied him. I'm going to see my daughter. Sir, the princess requested no visitors tonight. She's resting. I'm her father, not a visitor. The guard's jaw clenched. He didn't move from the door. William felt heat rise in his chest. Years of protocol and palace rules suddenly felt like prison bars. Step aside. That's an order. The guard's eyes darted to the door, then back to William. For a moment it seemed he might refuse. Then his shoulders sagged slightly, a crack in the armor. Your Majesty, please, you don't understand. Then help me understand. Why can't I see my own daughter? The silence stretched between them. Down the hall, a clock chimed once. William could hear his own heartbeat. The guard's hand trembled slightly. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because she asked me to keep everyone out, including you. William's stomach dropped. What are you talking about, sir? The guard looked at the door again, conflict written across his face. I'm not supposed to say anything. She made me promise. Every alarm in William's mind screamed. What promise? What's going on? The guard's professional mask crumbled. He looked suddenly young, uncertain, caught between duty and conscience. Princess Charlotte. She's been coming to this door every night at exactly midnight. Every night she stands there for exactly 10 minutes. Just standing, staring at the door. William's blood turned cold. What? At first I thought she was sleepwalking. But her eyes are open. She's awake. And 2 nights ago... The guard swallowed hard. 2 nights ago she whispered something. What did she say? The guard met William's eyes. The fear there was real. She said, he's coming soon. I have to be ready. William's world tilted. Who's coming? I don't know, sir. But there's more. Something you need to see. The guard reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. His hand shook as he offered it to William. I found this slipped under her door 3 days ago. I should have reported it immediately, but the princess saw me pick it up. She begged me not to tell anyone. She said if anyone found out, especially you, that he would know. And he would. He would what? The guard's voice cracked. He would hurt someone she loves. William unfolded the paper. The message inside was written in careful block letters, and what he read made his heart. Stop. William's hands trembled as he read the words again. Simple, direct, terrifying. Stop pretending. I see everything you do. I know who you really are. When the time comes, you'll do exactly what I say, or your family pays the price. No signature, no explanation. Just the cold promise of violence. How long has this been happening? William's voice came out steady, despite the panic rising in his throat. The guard shifted his weight. I've only been on this shift for 2 weeks, sir, but from what I've gathered, maybe a month, maybe longer? A month. Charlotte had been living with this threat for a month, and William hadn't known. Kind of. Father doesn't notice when his child is being terrorized. Has anyone else seen these notes? I don't know. Like I said, she made me promise not to tell. She was. The guard paused, choosing his words carefully. She was terrified, Your Majesty. Not for herself, for you, for her mother, for her siblings. She said this person had already proven they could get to her, that they had eyes everywhere, William looked at Charlotte's door. Behind it, his daughter was dealing with a nightmare alone, trying to protect her family by staying silent. He'd taught her to be brave, to be strong. But he'd never meant for her to carry something like this by herself. "I need to see her now." The guard hesitated. "Sir, if someone really is watching, then let them watch me being a father." William's voice carried the weight of command. "Open the door." The guard stepped aside. William's hand rested on the door handle. He took a breath, steadying himself. Whatever was happening, Charlotte needed to know she wasn't alone anymore. The door opened silently. Charlotte's room was dark, except for a thin strip of moonlight cutting across the floor. William's eyes adjusted slowly. He could see her bed, the covers pulled up, a small form lying still. Too still. "Charlotte." He kept his voice soft. No response. He moved closer. The moonlight touched the edge of the bed. Something about the shape beneath the covers looked wrong. Too flat, too uniform. William's pulse quickened. He reached out and pulled back the blanket. Pillows carefully arranged to look like a sleeping person. His daughter wasn't in her bed. "Charlotte," said it louder now, spinning to check the bathroom, the sitting area. Empty, all empty. Behind him, the guard appeared in the doorway. "Your Majesty? She's not here?" William's voice cracked. "She's gone." The guard's face went white. "That's impossible. I've been at this door all night. No one came in or out." "I swear it." William moved through the room, his mind racing. The windows were closed from the inside. The bathroom had no other exit. There was only one door, and the guard had been watching it. So where was his daughter? His eyes swept the room again, more carefully this time. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like a stage set. Like someone had arranged everything to appear undisturbed. Then he saw it, on Charlotte's desk. It's partially hidden beneath a textbook, the corner of another piece of paper. William crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled it free. This note was different, written in Charlotte's own handwriting. Hurried, scared. "Dad, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I didn't want to do this. But he said if I didn't come tonight, he'd hurt George. I had to protect him. I had to protect all of you. Please don't follow me. Please don't try to find me. It'll only make things worse. I love you. I'm sorry, Charlotte." The paper fell from William's hands. "Get security now." His voice was iron. "Lock down the palace. Wake everyone. Find my daughter." The guard grabbed his radio, already calling in the emergency. William read Charlotte's note again. The words blurred. His baby girl had walked into danger to protect her little brother. And he hadn't seen it coming. "Your Majesty?"
What?
The guard's voice was urgent. "There's something else." "The security footage? What about it?" "For the past 3 nights, the cameras in this corridor have experienced brief malfunctions, just a few minutes each time. Always around midnight. Midnight." When Charlotte stood at her door, waiting, someone's been tampering with them. William's mind clicked through the implications. Someone inside the palace. The guard nodded grimly. It has to be. No one from outside could access those systems. Which meant the threat wasn't just close to Charlotte. It was inside their home. Someone they trusted. Someone with access and knowledge of palace security. Someone who had convinced a frightened girl that silence was her only protection. Footsteps thundered in the hallway as security teams responded to the emergency call. Voices shouted orders. The palace that had been silent moments ago now erupted into controlled chaos, but William barely heard it. He was staring at Charlotte's note, at her careful words, the fear written between every line, and he was remembering something. A conversation from 3 weeks ago that he'd dismissed at the time. 3 weeks earlier, Charlotte had asked him a strange question at breakfast. They'd been alone in the family dining room, a rare moment without handlers or staff hovering nearby. "Dad," she'd said, pushing eggs around her plate. "If someone you cared about was in danger, but telling anyone would put them in more danger, what would you do?" He'd looked up from his newspaper, not really paying attention. "Is this for a school assignment?" "Just curious. Will you assess the threat level, involve the proper authorities, ensure everyone's safety through official channels?" A textbook answer. A prince's answer? Charlotte had nodded slowly and never brought it up again. She'd been testing him. trying to find a way to tell him what was happening. And he'd given her the exact response that made her feel she couldn't. Official channels. Proper authorities. The very systems that had been compromised from the inside. William's hands clenched into fists. Your Majesty. The head of palace security burst into the room, 2 guards flanking him. Marcus had been with them for 15 years. William trusted him completely, or he had. Now he trusted no one. Princess Charlotte is missing, Marcus said, his face grim. We're reviewing all security footage and sealing the palace. No one in or out until we find her. She's not in the palace. William handed him the note. She left willingly. Or thought she did. Marcus read quickly, his expression darkening. Someone's been threatening her. For how long? At least a month, and she didn't report it? Marcus looked genuinely confused. She was protecting her family. Specifically George. William met his eyes. Whoever wrote these threats convinced her that coming forward would get her brother hurt. They've been tampering with security footage. They have inside access. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. You think someone on staff? I think someone in this palace has been terrorizing my daughter for weeks. And tonight, they made their move. Marcus pulled out his phone, already typing commands. I'll lock down all personnel. No one leaves their quarters until we've questioned everyone. We'll check security logs, access records, everything. Do it. But Marcus? William's voice dropped. Charlotte's note said she had to go tonight. That means wherever she is, there's a deadline. A plan in motion. We don't have time for systematic protocol. What are you suggesting, sir? William moved to Charlotte's desk. He began opening drawers, searching for anything that might offer a clue. I'm suggesting my daughter has been investigating this herself. She's smart, observant. If someone was threatening her, she would have tried to figure out who. The guard from the hallway appeared in the doorway. Your Majesty, I just remembered something. About 2 weeks ago, I saw Princess Charlotte in the library late at night. She had books spread out on a table. When she saw me, she closed them quickly and said she was working on a history project. What kind of books? I didn't see clearly, but I think one was about palace security, historical protocols. William and Marcus exchanged glances. She was researching, William said, trying to understand the systems, looking for weaknesses, or trying to figure out who had access to exploit them. Marcus was already heading for the door. The library keeps records of every book checked out. If we can see what she was reading, go fast. Marcus disappeared down the corridor, his team following. William continued searching Charlotte's room. Everything looked so normal. Textbooks stacked neatly. Photos of family and friends on the walls. A stuffed bear from childhood sitting on a chair. But beneath the surface, his daughter had been living in fear. He opened her bedside drawer. Notebooks, pens, headphones. Normal teenage items. Then his fingers touched something solid at the back. He pulled it out. A small digital recorder. His hands shook as he pressed play. Charlotte's voice filled the room. Barely above a whisper. It's Thursday night. He called again. Same blocked number. Same message. He knows things no one should know. What I ate for lunch. The conversation I had with Mom about my exams. He described George's football practice this afternoon, what he was wearing, what drills they ran. How is that possible unless someone on the inside is feeding him information? A pause. Then her voice again, smaller now. I'm scared. I don't know who to trust. Yesterday, I tried to hint to Dad at breakfast, but he just gave me the standard security protocol speech. I can't go through official channels. This person is either staff or has someone on staff helping them. If I report it, he'll know immediately. And George, ... her voice cracked. I can't let anything happen to George. He's just a kid. So I'll figure this out myself. I have to. The recording ended. William played it again. And again, hearing the fear in his daughter's voice, the determination, the loneliness. She'd been so close. She'd almost told him. And he'd been too distracted by protocol to really listen. Your Majesty, Marcus was back, breathing hard. He held a piece of paper covered in notes. Library records show Charlotte checked out 8 books in the past month. 7 about palace security, historical breaches, and communication systems. But the 8th, what was it? Marcus's expression was dark. A staff directory from 1995. It listed every employee, their family members, and where they lived. It was supposed to have been destroyed during a security update, but somehow one copy remained in the archives. Why would she want an old staff directory? Because Marcus said slowly, 3 people currently working in the palace were hired in 1995, and according to her research, he pointed to notes in the margin of the library record. Charlotte's handwriting. One of them had a son who was dismissed from palace service 7 years ago for inappropriate conduct. William's blood ran cold. Who? James Mitchell. He worked in maintenance. Was let go after he was caught trying to access private family areas without clearance. There was an investigation, but no charges filed. He just disappeared, and his father, Robert Mitchell, still works here. In the security control room, the room seemed to tilt Robert Mitchell. The man who managed camera systems and security footage, the man who could make cameras malfunction at exact times. The man who would know every movement the royal family made. Where is Robert now? He called in sick tonight. First time in 3 years. William grabbed his phone. Send teams to his home, now, and check if James Mitchell has any known addresses, any properties. Anything already on it. Marcus was shouting orders into his radio, but William's mind was racing ahead. Charlotte had figured this out. She'd identified the threat, and when James Mitchell or whoever was using that identity had threatened George, she'd made the choice to face it alone. The recorder sat on the bed, still warm from playback. William picked it up, cradling it gently. His daughter had been so brave, and so scared, and tonight, she'd walked into the darkness thinking it was the only way to keep her family safe. He wouldn't let that be true, Robert. Mitchell's apartment was empty when the security team arrived. The door was unlocked. Inside, the space looked hurriedly abandoned, drawers pulled open, closet half empty, a cup of coffee still warm on the kitchen counter. Marcus called William with the update. He left in the last hour. Maybe less. We're checking traffic cameras, train stations, everything. What about the son? James, no official address. No bank accounts. No digital footprint for 7 years. It's like he vanished. William paced Charlotte's room, his mind working through possibilities. People don't just vanish. He's been somewhere, watching, planning, or pulling security footage from the past month. Every entrance, every corridor. If he was in the palace, we'll find him. He wouldn't be stupid enough to show his face. But his father would have given him intel. Schedules, routines, weak points. William stopped at Charlotte's window. Dawn was breaking over the palace grounds. Beautiful and terrible. How many sunrises had Charlotte watched from this window while carrying her secret fear? His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. His first instinct was to show security. But something made him pause. He opened the message. She's safe. For now. But if you want her to stay that way, you'll follow my instructions exactly. Come alone to the old groundskeeper's cottage at the north edge of the estate. 1 hour. Just you. Tell anyone, and Charlotte pays the price. William's jaw clenched. He should alert Marcus. Should follow protocol. Should let the professionals handle this. But Charlotte was his daughter, and she was out there because he'd failed to see her fear. He had 58 minutes. He found paper and a pen. Wrote quickly, if something went wrong, someone needed to know where he'd gone and why. He left the note on Charlotte's desk where it would be found. Then he slipped out of the room. The palace was in controlled chaos, security teams rushing between posts. Staff being questioned, every door being checked. William moved through it like a ghost, using paths he'd known since childhood. Secret corridors meant for royal family emergencies. Routes that bypassed security checkpoints. He reached the ground level and stepped into the morning air. The north edge of the estate was a 15-minute walk. The groundskeeper's cottage had been abandoned for years after the last keeper retired. It sat in a cluster of old trees, invisible from the main palace, perfect for a meeting no one should witness. William walked fast, his breath forming clouds in the cold air. He wore no coat, carried nothing that could be traced. Just a father going to find his daughter at the cottage appeared through the trees, small, run-down windows. Dark, he approached the door. It opened before he could knock. James Mitchell stood in the doorway. He looked different from the old security photos William had seen, older, harder, with eyes that held years of resentment. Your Majesty, the title was mocking. Thank you for coming alone. I'd say I'm surprised, but desperate fathers are predictable. Where's Charlotte? Safe, like I said. James stepped back, gesturing William inside. Come, see for yourself. Every instinct screamed to trap, but William walked in. The cottage interior was sparse. Old furniture covered in dust. And in the corner, sitting on a wooden chair, was Charlotte. She looked up as William entered. Her eyes went wide with fear. Dad, no. You shouldn't have. Quiet. James closed the door behind William. We're all here now. One happy family? William moved toward Charlotte, but James stepped between them. Not yet. First, you're going to understand why we're here. William's eyes swept the room, empty. Where's your father? Robert. James laughed bitterly. My father is a coward. He helped me because I'm his son, but he doesn't have the stomach for what needs to be done. He's probably halfway to the coast by now, convincing himself he didn't really do anything wrong. And what is it you think needs to be done? James's expression hardened. Justice. Recognition. Everything you took from me 7 years ago. How William studied him, trying to remember the incident. There had been so many security breaches over the years. So many threats assessed and managed. You were dismissed for attempting to access private areas. You were given a warning and let go. That was mercy. Mercy. James's voice rose. I was a kid, 22 years old. I'd grown up in the palace. My father worked there, my grandfather before him. It was my home. And I made one mistake. I wanted to see the library after hours because I loved the old books. That's it. But you decided I was a threat. Blacklisted me. Made sure I couldn't get work anywhere. Do you know what that did to my life? If there were mistakes in how the situation was handled. Mistakes. James laughed again, harsh and bitter. You destroyed everything. My father had to watch me spiral. Lose jobs. Lose hope. And through it all, you just kept living your perfect palace life. Your perfect family. Never knowing or caring about the people you crush. William kept his voice calm. So you spent 7 years planning revenge against a teenage girl? No. James moved closer. I spent 7 years watching, learning, seeing how this perfect family really works. And you know what I discovered? Princess Charlotte is just like me. Smart, observant, trapped in a system that doesn't care about individuals. Charlotte spoke up, her voice steady, despite obvious fear. You're wrong. My family cares. And threatening them doesn't prove anything, doesn't it? James turned to her. For weeks, I've been showing you how easy it is to be invisible in this palace. How little real security there is when someone knows the cracks. How alone you really are, even surrounded by guards. You terrorized her, William said, his anger barely controlled. A child. I taught her the truth, that at any moment everything can be taken away, that the people you trust can betray you. That mercy is just another word for control. The pieces clicked into place in William's mind. This was never about Charlotte. She's leverage. James smiled coldly. Now you're understanding. Charlotte drew you here. And now you're going to do something for me. Something that will show the world the truth about royal justice. What do you want? A public statement. You're going to admit that your security systems failed, that innocent people are destroyed by them. You're going to reinstate me, compensate me, and apologize. Publicly. William was quiet for a moment. And if I do this, then Charlotte goes free. You both do. And this ends. And if I refuse, James pulled out a phone. Then I release evidence that will destroy your family's reputation. Videos, documents, communications I've collected. Some real, some ... enhanced. But all damaging enough that by the time the truth comes out it won't matter. The narrative will be set. Charlotte's voice cut through the tension. Dad, don't do it. He's lying. James spun toward her. Quiet. He doesn't have anything. Charlotte stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I've been watching him too. Learning his patterns. He's desperate and angry. But he's not a monster. He had a month to hurt me and never did. He's not going to destroy evidence he doesn't have. William looked at his daughter with new understanding. She hadn't just been surviving this ordeal. She'd been analyzing it. Fighting back in the only way she could. James's confident facade cracked slightly. You don't know what I'm capable of? Yes, I do. Charlotte's voice was strong now. You're capable of breaking into places you don't belong. Of sending scary messages. Of manipulating security systems. But you're not capable of real violence. Because if you were, you wouldn't need leverage. You wouldn't need my father here. You would have just done whatever you planned. The room fell silent. William saw it then, the fear behind James's anger. The desperation of someone who'd built a plan on rage, but didn't know how to finish it. She's right, William said quietly. You wanted to be seen, to be heard. But this isn't the way. Part 5. James's hand trembled as he gripped the phone. For a moment, no one moved. The cottage seemed frozen, 3 people caught in a moment that could tip either direction. Then James's shoulders sagged. You don't understand. Any of you? Then help us understand. William kept his voice gentle. Without threats. Without fear. Just tell us. What's the point? James sank into a chair, the phone hanging loose in his hand. You'll never see me as anything but a security threat. That's all I am in your world. Charlotte took a careful step forward. That's not true. Do you know what I've learned these past weeks? Really learned? James looked up at her, confused. I learned that our security systems are flawed. That protocols meant to protect us can also isolate us. That sometimes the people flagged as threats are just people who made mistakes. Charlotte's voice was steady, thoughtful. You're right that my father didn't know about you. But that's not because he didn't care. It's because the system moved you through without ever letting him see you as a person. William watched his daughter with amazement. She'd been terrorized, threatened, isolated, and yet she stood there trying to build a bridge. When I was researching what happened to you, Charlotte continued, I found the original report. It said you were a threat, potentially dangerous, needed to be removed immediately. But the actual incident was you in the library, reading. That's all. The alarms went off, James said defensively. I tripped the security because you didn't have clearance to be there after hours. But nobody asked why you were there. What you were reading? If you meant any harm, Charlotte moved closer. They saw the alarm and made you the threat, without ever asking if maybe you were just a kid who loved books. James's eyes glistened. I'd found a first edition of a novel my grandmother used to read to me. She'd worked in the palace kitchens. It was the only connection I had to her after she died. I just wanted to hold it, to feel close to her. William felt something crack in his chest. I never knew that. Of course you didn't. You never asked. James's bitterness returned. No one did. They just wrote their reports and escorted me out and banned me from ever returning. My father had to look at me every day knowing I'd embarrassed him, knowing I'd lost the family legacy. That's why he helped you, William said quietly. Not because he approved, but because he felt guilty. He should feel guilty. This whole system should. James stood up, pacing now. Do you know what it's like to grow up in the palace? To have it be your entire world? And then suddenly be cast out like you never existed? Charlotte spoke softly. Actually, I do. Sort of. Everyone turned to her. I know that feeling of being seen only as a role, not a person. Of having every action interpreted through protocols instead of understanding. Of being isolated by the very systems meant to protect you. She met James's eyes. These past weeks, you taught me what it feels like to be powerless, and I hated it. But you know what? I think you've been feeling that way for 7 years. James stared at her. You're a princess. You have everything. I have a life planned out for me before I make choices. I have guards watching me every moment. I have people who care more about protocol than what I actually need. Ah. Charlotte's voice wavered slightly. Tonight I walked out of the palace to meet you because I thought it was the only way to protect my family. Do you know how terrifying that was? But also, do you know what it felt like? For one moment, it felt like I had control. Like I was making my own choice, even if it was a scary one. William's heart ached. His daughter had been showing him her prison all along. Okay. And he'd been too focused on the golden bars to notice. James sat down again, the fight draining out of him. I don't know what I thought would happen. When I started watching Charlotte, following her routine, I told myself it was about revenge, about making you all feel what I felt. But then I saw her, actually saw her, and she reminded me of who I used to be, trapped, trying to break free of expectations. So why threaten her? William asked. Because I didn't know how else to be seen. If I just asked for help, who would listen? But if I created a crisis... James shook his head. I thought if I could get you here, could make you understand, maybe something would change. For me? For her. For everyone stuck in this system? Charlotte sat down across from him. You went about it the wrong way. You scared me. You made me feel unsafe in my own home. That's not okay, no matter what your reasons were. I know. James looked genuinely ashamed. I kept telling myself I was teaching you a lesson. But really, I was just spreading my pain around. That doesn't fix anything. William watched them as daughter and this young man who'd been failed by systems William had trusted. Two people from different worlds, both trapped by expectations and protocols. What happens now? James asked quietly. William was silent for a moment. Then, now we face the consequences. You broke laws, made threats, tampered with security systems. There will be an investigation and likely charges. James nodded, accepting. I know. But, William continued, there will also be a review of what happened 7 years ago. A real review, with proper oversight. If mistakes were made in how you were treated, they'll be addressed. That won't bring back 7 years. No, it won't. But it might prevent the next person from losing 7 years. William looked at his daughter. Charlotte's been trying to teach me something these past weeks, even if I was too blind to see it. That our systems need to serve people, not just protect institutions. Charlotte smiled slightly. I learned it from you, Dad. You always said that leadership means listening, even when it's uncomfortable. I haven't been listening very well lately. None of us have. She looked at James. What you did was wrong. But what was done to you was wrong too. Maybe we can all learn something from that? James wiped his eyes. What about your brother? The threats I made about George, were they real? Charlotte asked. No, I've never been anywhere near him. I knew that was the one thing that would make you act. I'm sorry. Charlotte took a deep breath. I'm going to choose to believe you. But you need to understand if you ever threaten my family again, I won't be so forgiving. Neither will I understand. William pulled out his phone. I'm calling security now. They'll come for you. But I'll make sure the full story's heard. All of it. James nodded. Thank you. That's all I wanted. To be heard. As William made the call, Charlotte moved to stand beside her father. He put his arm around her, holding her close. You were so brave, he whispered. I was so scared. Bravery and fear aren't opposites, sweetheart. They usually come together. I should have told you sooner. I should have made it easier to tell me. Part 6 security arrived within minutes. Marcus and his team swept into the cottage with practiced efficiency, securing James, checking William and Charlotte for injuries, documenting everything. William gave his statement clearly, including all of James's accusations about the original incident. Marcus took notes, his expression troubled. We'll investigate fully, Marcus promised. If there were procedural failures, we'll address them. As James was being escorted out, he paused and looked back at Charlotte. For what it's worth, I am sorry. You didn't deserve to be scared. Charlotte met his eyes. No, I didn't, but thank you for saying it. The cottage emptied quickly. Soon, it was just William, Charlotte, and Marcus. The queen is waiting at the palace, Marcus said gently. She's been worried sick. We'll head back now. William kept his arm around Charlotte. But Marcus, I want a full security review. Not just of this incident, of everything. Protocols, personnel management, how we handle threats and discipline, all of it. That will take months, sir. And it takes months. My daughter spent weeks in fear because our systems failed on multiple levels. That ends now. Marcus nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. The walk back to the palace was quiet. The sun had fully risen, turning the grounds golden. Staff and security personnel watched them pass, relief evident on every face. The queen met them at a side entrance, pulling Charlotte into a fierce embrace. No words, just a mother holding her child. William watched them, his heart full and breaking at the same time. Later, after Charlotte had been checked by doctors and wrapped in blankets and given hot tea, after the initial chaos had settled, the family gathered in a private sitting room. Charlotte's younger brother George ran in and hugged her tightly. Everyone said you were missing. I was so scared. I'm okay, Georgie. I promise. Charlotte ruffled his hair. And you were never in danger. That was a lie. A lie? George looked confused. But the important thing is, you're safe. We're all safe. The queen sat beside Charlotte, not letting go of her hand. Why didn't you tell us? Any of us? Charlotte was quiet for a moment. Because I thought I had to protect you. Because the threat said, if I told anyone, especially Dad, that someone would get hurt. And I believed it. You shouldn't have been alone in that. The queen's voice cracked. I know that now. But in the moment, all I could think about was keeping everyone safe, even if it meant being scared by myself. William crouched in front of his daughter. That's not your job, Charlotte. Protecting this family is my responsibility. You can't protect us from everything, Dad. That's what I learned. There will always be threats, always be risks. The question is whether we face them together or alone. Of course, she was right. From now on, William said firmly, together, always together. No more carrying burdens by yourself. No more trying to solve things in isolation. This family works as a team. What smile. Continue, 2018 was tired, but genuine. Deal. Over the following weeks, the investigation unfolded. James Mitchell was charged with multiple crimes, making threats, tampering with security systems, kidnapping. But the investigation also revealed the flaws in how he'd been treated 7 years earlier. No malicious intent had ever been established. No attempt at due process. Just a frightened young man in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's processed through a system that saw threats, not people. William pushed for reforms. New protocols that included psychological evaluation, mediation, and second chances for nonviolent incidents. Better oversight of security decisions. Channels for staff to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. Robert. Mitchell resigned and cooperated fully with investigators. He'd helped his son out of guilt and love, but he understood he'd violated the trust of his position. In his exit interview, he said something that stayed with William. I watched my son break for 7 years. I couldn't watch him break anymore, so I broke instead. The story eventually leaked to the press, as palace stories always do. But the narrative wasn't what anyone expected. It became a conversation about institutional failures, about the cost of protocols that forget the human element, about a princess who'd shown remarkable courage and compassion under threat. Charlotte gave one interview. Carefully managed, but heartfelt. I learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared, she said to the camera. It means doing what's right even when you're terrified. But I also learned that you shouldn't have to be brave alone. The strongest thing I did wasn't facing the threat by myself. It was finally accepting that I needed help. Fewer comments flooded in. Thousands of people sharing their own stories of feeling alone, of being failed by systems, of having to choose between bad options. Charlotte's honesty had opened something started conversations in ways official statements never could. 3 months later, William stood in Charlotte's doorway, watching her do homework. Normal teenage homework. Complaining about calculus, texting with friends. Being 15, "Can I come in?" he asked. She looked up and smiled. Of course. He sat on the edge of her bed. "I've been thinking about something you said. That our systems need to serve people, not just protect institutions." "Yeah. I want you to be part of the review committee, helping redesign our security protocols." Charlotte's eyes widened. "Really? You're the person who lived through this. Who saw the flaws from the inside? Who understands what it feels like to be failed by the very systems meant to protect you." William leaned forward. "I can't think of anyone more qualified." "What about school? And royal duties?" "We'll work around them. This is important, Charlotte. Your voice is important." She was quiet, considering. Then, "Okay, yes. I want to help make sure no one else feels the way I felt, or the way James felt. That's my girl." Charlotte set down her homework. "Dad, can I ask you something? Anything? Do you think James will be okay? Eventually?" William had wondered the same thing. James was facing serious consequences, but he was also finally getting help, therapy, support, a chance to process years of pain. "I think he has a chance now. A real one. That's more than he had before. I hope so. He was wrong about a lot of things. But he was also right that we can do better. That we should do better." William pulled his daughter into a hug. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher." She hugged him back. "Even if he sometimes needs reminding to listen to his own lessons." He laughed. "Fair point." That evening, the family had dinner together. No staff hovering. No formal protocol. Just them, talking and laughing and being present with each other. George told a long, rambling story about football practice. The Queen shared plans for a charity event. Charlotte made jokes and stole food off William's plate when she thought he wasn't looking. Normal, beautiful, ordinary, and William realized that this was the security that mattered most. Not guards or cameras or protocols, but connection, trust, love that made room for honesty even when it was hard. Later, as he walked past Charlotte's room on his way to bed, he saw her standing at her door. The same door where she'd stood in fear for weeks, waiting for midnight terrors. But now she was just checking that George had turned off his light down the hall. Normal sister concern. Normal family routine. She caught William watching and smiled. "Good night, Dad. Good night, sweetheart." The palace settled into silence. But it was a different silence now. Not the silence of secrets and fear, but the quiet of a family at rest. Safe not because of walls and guards, though those had their place. Safe because they'd learned to face the darkness together. And that, William thought, as he finally let himself sleep, was the only security that ever really mattered.